Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 8. So, over the past, year or season or so, it has been a bit weird for The Flash as there really wasn't as many, returning characters that we usually would get from time to time throughout the regular seasons before. Whether they were for multiple episodes that fit into the main storyline or storylines that are going on, or just singular, or maybe even multiple episodes outside of that, main storyline. And of course, in season 7, we had hardly any returning characters, especially at the beginning, due to the issue that was going on in the world at the time, which restricted people from being able to, what's the word, rotate through the show fairly easily. But luckily, we are getting back to some normality in the world and our favorite shows, as was evident in the Armageddon event that kicked off season 8 of The Flash, where we had multiple and various characters guest starring in episodes throughout that event, with only one of them being from another show, that of course being Batwoman, though Brandon Routh, who plays Ray Palmer, I think, also did the 100th episode of Legend of Tomorrow while up in Vancouver as well. And of course, this season, we know we are getting characters like Eddie Thawne, for example, and even Ronnie Raymond returning for episodes. Of course, Eddie Thawne at the very least being in the episode we come back to on March 9th, and Ronnie Raymond confirmed for at least 2 episodes. I think episode 11 and 12, I think they are, but I think episode 11 is the first, and maybe the second one could be episode 14. Who knows when that second episode is. But one character that was supposed to show up in season 7 and was made clear to people by both the actor who plays the character and the showrunner for the show was that of Wally West, aka Kid Flash. Now, we don't know what episode or episodes he was going to show up in during season 7, though I guess it would have been the 150th episode, which was the second last episode of season 7. And I guess due to him, probably going to show up in that one, he might have been in the finale for that season as well, because I think all the characters that were in the 150th episode were also in the finale. So of course, these were the episodes with not only Bart Allen and Nora West Allen, or Impulse and XS, but also Jay Garrick. So it would make sense that Wally West, aka Kid Flash, was there as well. I mean, it's the Flash family. And I think they even mentioned Wally a couple of times throughout that. However, around that time last year, people asked Kenan Lonsdale, the actor who plays Wally, why he wasn't in the season, and specifically those bunch of episodes, and if he'd actually been contacted to, or been asked to come onto the show. And he said he was and he wanted to, but due to the quarantine issues, they couldn't make it work. He was sort of busy around that time, and if there was no quarantine, he could just fly in and out of Vancouver where they film. He would have been able to do it easily, but it would have taken up to around a month or more of his time to do that hotel quarantine, and then sort of film 1 or 2 episodes worth of the show, which could be up to 3 weeks. So 2 weeks quarantine, up to 2 or 3 weeks potentially of filming, that's a lot of time. So I think most people understood, why he didn't show up and why they couldn't make it work. But now, with things changing up and no more quarantine, the doors and borders are open more than ever, or at least they're they're back to being as open as they were before the world went overly weird. But recently on Twitter, Kenan Lonsdale replied to someone asking him about coming back to play Wally again on the on the show on The Flash, and he said this: "Been a minute since I put on the suit, I'd be down." And then smiley face he put in there as well. And you might be thinking "Oh, Paige, you idiot, that doesn't mean anything. He's just replying to some random dude." And yeah, that could be true, but he would get this all the time in his mentions on Twitter or Instagram or MySpace, as you have that. And I remember he did the exact same thing last time he came back, which was in season 6. He randomly replied to someone saying something along the lines of what he said there, the old "oh yeah, I'd love to come back." And I think even, I'm pretty sure it was Candace Patton replied saying "me too," or something along those lines. And it's important to remember, last time Wally or Kid Flash came back, he was cool as hell. He was dope. He got upgraded and everything like that. He was full on in the mantra, in the zone. He was really cool. Kenan even went on to post, after talking to that random dude, he went on to post images of a 3D model that someone made of him, 3D art, these multiple pictures here. So he was in a very Kid Flash-centric mood that moment, which maybe ties into evidence from set that maybe he is coming back, which we'll get to soon. Now, of course, since he left, a lot has happened to not only just the characters on the show, but also to him. he probably lost his speed at the beginning of season 7 and then randomly regained it when Barry fixed all that stuff from the beginning of last season. So he would clearly want to come back, and why wouldn't the show use him if they could? Now, we of course don't know what they have planned for the back half of this season for everything when we pick up. Not just if potential Wally stuff, but just the entire show. We don't know who the big bad or big bads are that we are dealing with, and just even like subplots are doing. So it's hard to know where Wally could slot in if they bring him back, because I think it's important that if Wally comes back, he works within the episode and the threat or threats warrant having multiple speedsters. But in regards to him coming back, well, do we actually have any hints that Wally is coming back outside of that stuff on Twitter? Well, maybe. So Danielle Nicolette, who plays Cecile on The Flash, was just posting some like random stuff on her Instagram story from the set of the show. So there was one post of her and Grant Gustin between takes playing around with like a camera rig or something like that. I think it was, or something like that. But the next post was this one. Now you might be like, okay, cool, she's in a chair taking a selfie on the mirror. She's in like the makeup trailer or something like that, which is true. Like, I'm not going to deny that. That's obviously what's going on there. But there is something in the background that is, of some interest, especially to multiple people. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% proof, because it could be something else, and this is just me bringing this to you guys to have a discussion. But a few of you guys actually sent this to me over Twitter and Instagram, and like, look in the background. And what it looks to be behind Danielle here is a wig and sort of like mold thing for Wally. Now, at the moment, I'm pretty sure Kenan has longer hair. I think I saw some stuff on Instagram and Twitter where he's got longer hair. So maybe that's the reason for the wig. I mean, they can do magical stuff in the like the hair and makeup trailer. They can make people have really long hair, have really short hair without having to cut anything. But usually with guys, they cut the hair, but they can make it work where that doesn't happen. However, if this wig isn't for Wally, not for Kenan Lonsdale specifically, it could be for a stunt or body double that will have different hair, but they needed to maybe look like Wally. Now, at first, I didn't think much of it when I was sent it. I was like, oh, okay. But when you look at specifically what the hair is on, you can see it's a cowl. It looks like a cowl, and it looks like the cowl or mask that Wally wears as Kid Flash. The more I looked at it, the more I was like, that has to be Kid Flash. Like, who else would it be? Unless it's a completely new character that for some reason looks like Wally or Kid Flash. Now, of course, if this was just on a random mold or stand like that little hairpiece, then you wouldn't think much of it. But the fact it sort of looks like, hair that Wally would and has rocked previously on the show, and it's on what looks to be a stand resembling the Kid Flash head and mask, things start to link up, especially that Kenan is now randomly starting to talk about Kid Flash again. I mean, you just can't avoid the coincidences and the connections. But moving on from that, like, what would bring Wally back to Central City? Like, what would make him go, I have to show up again? Well, everyone's just going to jump to Speedster villain. Like, that's, of course, going to be the number one option that most people would logically have, and I agree with that. Like, well, if Barry's going to need help and Wally's just going to come in to help, well, you have to think it'd be some sort of threat that would require Wally's help, which would be a Speedster villain. But, of course, it's important to remember Iris is having her own storyline in the back half of this season with her time sickness, which they sort of set up in the Armageddon event, but didn't really do too much with it because it's meant to be for the back half. So maybe he could be attached to that in some way. Obviously, a single episode that somewhat relates to the main storyline, but just like involves a team up specifically with Barry and Wally. That could be the case like we saw in season 6. But as I said earlier on in the video, it's hard to make an overly accurate or detailed guess because we don't know too much about what's coming our way in this back half of season 8. But we are only about 5.5 weeks, I think, away from the show coming back. So in the next month, we might get information on what's happening when they start to promote the return. We might get a hint as to who the villains are. We know they're meant to be one's meant to be horror based, and they both are birthed or come out of the ashes of Armageddon. So Armageddon seems to be the cause of both of them, and one of them is going to be sort of like horror based. So that's going to be interesting. And which one could Wally potentially go up against? Probably the back half one, which maybe might not be the horror one, but who knows. Now, in regards to promoting the return of the show, we of course got a random trailer drop early in the week, and I would assume we get another one within a week or two until the show comes back. But you can go check out my video on that trailer on the channel, and it will be linked in the description down as well, or the description down below as well if you haven't seen it. But I'm pretty sure the show still has 5 or 6 episodes left to film for this season, so I'm not too sure how much public filming will be going on, because that could easily spoil things for later this season, because this is the weirdest time we've had with The Flash. in regards to a break and, you know, them still filming and being so far ahead of where we are in regards to watching and seeing they're closer to the end of the season. Like, we're pretty much in the same distance from the beginning of the season as they are to the end of the season. So that gives you a bit of a idea as to how big the gap is between where we are and where they're filming. So that, you know, things could easily get spoiled, you know, and, no, I love a good set photo. But I don't want it to spoil things, you know, months and months down the track for my viewing pleasure, especially big things. So hopefully they are aware of that, and maybe they try and secure the set photo or the set areas a bit tighter, just so things don't get too overly spoiled. But yeah, I think if Wally's coming back, we should learn about it fairly soon. I think we'll learn about it fairly soon. So if that happens, we'll do an update video or include in a video, something along those lines. But that's for future me to worry about and for future you guys to watch, I guess. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome. Go drop a like on it, show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions on this. Do you think Wally could be coming back based off all this? And do you want to see him come back, and in what way? Like, would you want him to be involved with the main storyline, or would you want like a similar episode to what we had in season 6, where it was a cool like Flash team up? Let me know your opinions down there in the comment section down below. Always curious to read them. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.